Absolutely. Here's an expanded version of Key Point 1 written in the requested style, around 750 words without a subheading. When both you and the narcissist stop contacting each other, the first thing you notice is the silence. At first, it might feel strange, even uncomfortable, because silence in a relationship that was once dominated by constant interaction feels almost unnatural. For years, the narcissist has created a rhythm of attention, manipulation, and reaction that shaped your life, often dictating how you felt, how you responded, and even how you thought about yourself. That rhythm, that constant back and forth, is suddenly gone. You might expect to feel immediate relief, but often the first experience is a strange mix of emptiness and tension. Silence can feel heavy, almost deafening, because it forces you to confront a reality that has been obscured by constant noise, the reality that you are no longer enmeshed in someone else's emotional demands. For the narcissist, this silence is an alarm. It interrupts the predictable pattern of control and attention that they rely on to maintain their sense of self. When you stop responding, they are forced into a space they rarely occupy willingly, a space of uncertainty. The silence challenges their identity because, for a narcissist, their sense of self is often tied directly to the reactions and energy of others. Without your contact, without the emotional fuel you provided, they experience a creeping discomfort that can quickly escalate into anxiety or panic. They may ruminate on what went wrong, replay interactions in their mind, or attempt to reconstruct a narrative that restores their sense of control. They may even convince themselves that you will reach out eventually, or they may begin plotting ways to regain the attention they have lost. Meanwhile, on your side, silence can be both terrifying and liberating. The first days of no contact may stir doubt. Did I do the right thing? Am I overreacting? Am I being too harsh? These feelings are natural. Silence strips away distractions, leaving space for reflection. It can also awaken old emotional patterns, memories, and unresolved feelings. But this is the essential work of healing. In the absence of the narcissist's influence, you have the chance to hear your own thoughts, acknowledge your own feelings, and assess your life from a perspective untainted by manipulation. Over time, what initially felt like emptiness transforms into a profound sense of clarity. You begin to recognize that silence is not a void, it is a space of possibility. It is a pause that allows you to observe yourself, your boundaries, and your needs without interference. You start to understand that your energy, once siphoned by the constant demands and tactics of the narcissist, is now yours to reclaim. This silence, paradoxically, is rich with insight. It reveals patterns you may not have noticed when you were in the cycle of interaction, how often you deferred to someone else's whims, how much of your emotional life was reactive rather than proactive, and how deeply manipulation had become normalized. The quiet is uncomfortable for a reason. It is a mirror that reflects the imbalance in the relationship, and yet it is precisely this discomfort that fosters growth. As you navigate this silence, you begin to rebuild your inner voice, the part of you that may have been silenced or ignored. You learn to trust your own perception, your own judgment, and your own intuition. You discover that you can exist without the constant validation or disruption that the narcissist demanded. For the narcissist, silence is experienced very differently. It is unsettling because they are deprived of the external cues that sustain their self-image. They may feel an urgent need to fill the void, to restore the flow of attention and control that has been interrupted. This can trigger panic, obsessive thoughts, or impulsive attempts to reestablish contact, but it is usually short-lived because the root problem, the reliance on external validation, is not addressed. In contrast, for you, the silence is an active choice. It is a boundary, a reclaiming of power, and a declaration that your emotional energy belongs to you. The more you honor this silence, the more it transforms from a space of tension into a space of empowerment. Eventually, what once felt deafening and intimidating becomes a sanctuary of clarity. You learn that silence can be one of the most powerful tools in disengaging from manipulation and reclaiming your life. It is in this quiet that you begin to remember yourself unfiltered, unpressured, and undirected by the narcissist's influence. The silence is not an absence, it is a beginning. If you want, I can continue expanding key points 2.6 in the same detailed 750-word style so the full speech is ready for use. Do you want me to proceed with key point 2 next? Here's the expanded version of key point 2, around 750 words, in the same style and without a subheading. When you stop contacting a narcissist and the silence persists, and the silence persists, and the silence persists. What often follows is the internal panic of the narcissist. This panic is not always visible, but it is intense, chaotic, and entirely fueled by their dependence on external validation. Narcissists thrive on knowing that they have influence, that their words, gestures, or manipulations elicit predictable responses. They rely on this control to maintain a stable self-image because their sense of worth is rarely intrinsic. It is contingent upon how others react to them. When that contact abruptly ends, it triggers a profound destabilization. In their minds, the rules of the relationship have suddenly changed. The attention they once assumed was guaranteed is no longer there, and with it goes the certainty that they are the center of your emotional world. This absence can provoke obsessive thinking as they replay past interactions, analyze every word or gesture, and try to identify a mistake or reason for the silence. Their minds may generate scenarios that range from the plausible to the absurd, all in an effort to regain a sense of control. They may attempt to reach out through subtle or overt tactics, sending messages, making calls, posting on social media, or even reaching out indirectly through mutual acquaintances. These behaviors often appear manipulative or frantic because they are born from a deep sense of internal instability and fear of abandonment. Interestingly, the intensity of the panic is often directly proportional to the narcissist's investment in control. Those who are more entwined in the illusion that they are indispensable will experience higher levels of distress when their influence is interrupted. To Jund, you may notice that their attempts to regain contact are inconsistent, sometimes apologetic, sometimes aggressive, sometimes seemingly casual. These behaviors are not rooted in genuine concern or self-reflection. They are tactical, designed to test boundaries and gauge whether their power is being restored. Meanwhile, their internal experience is highly uncomfortable. They may feel confusion, frustration, anxiety, and even helplessness, emotions that are foreign to them because they are accustomed to managing how others feel rather than experiencing unfiltered internal emotion. The panic is rarely productive. It is not accompanied by introspection or personal growth. Instead, it is a turbulent storm of unmet need, craving, and fear that may manifest in cycles. Obsessing, attempting to reestablish contact, failing, and then repeating the pattern internally. From your perspective, this panic may be invisible at first, but you may Odysseus indirect signs, such as sudden changes in behavior if they do attempt contact, or the lingering emotional pressure if you continue to think about them. The most crucial thing to understand is that the narcissist panic is not a reflection of your actions. It is a reflection of their reliance on external validation and their inability to tolerate the absence of control. Recognizing this can help you maintain your boundaries and reinforce the importance of silence as a tool for your own recovery. In essence, the narcissist's panic reveals the imbalance in the relationship. It highlights the emotional dependence they place on others and underscores the autonomy and strength that you gain when you step away. While their mind is consumed with anxiety and attempts to regain influence, you are building clarity, stability, and self-trust. Their panic, though uncomfortable to observe, can be empowering to recognize. It is proof that the dynamics of control have shifted and that your decision to disengage has real impact. Over time, the panic may evolve into other behaviors. Projection, rationalization, or attempts to draw you back into old patterns. But the initial stage, the raw internal panic, is critical because it marks the moment when the narcissist's reliance on external validation is exposed in stark relief. It is a moment of insight for you as well. Understanding that their distress is about them, not you, allows you to separate your emotional life from the chaos they may be experiencing. You learn that their panic is a natural response of someone whose identity is dependent on influence, and that your continued silence, your boundaries, and your disengagement are not only valid but essential. By witnessing this internal panic without succumbing to it, you reinforce your own agency. You see clearly that the narcissist's emotional turbulence is not a reflection of your worth or your responsibility. It is a reflection of their unmet need for control. This awareness becomes a cornerstone of your healing, providing the psychological insight and emotional strength necessary to maintain distance, reclaim autonomy, and move forward free from manipulation. If you want, I can continue with key point 3 expanded to 750 words next, keeping the same style and depth so the speech builds naturally. Do you want me to do that? Here's the expanded version of Key Point 3, around 750 words, written in the same style and without a subheading. When both you and the narcissist stop contacting each other, one of the most profound changes occurs within you: the reclamation of your own power. In the cycle of a narcissistic relationship, your energy, your attention, and even your sense of identity are often redirected to manage the needs, moods, and manipulations of the other person. Boundaries become fluid, and your self-worth can become entangled with their perception of you. But when you cease contact, you reclaim all of that space, all of that energy, and all of that agency. The act of disengaging is not just about silence, it is about actively choosing yourself over the patterns that once dictated your life. In the absence of their constant demands, you begin to rediscover your own rhythm, your own priorities, and your own emotional center. This process is transformative because it shifts the focus from external validation to internal validation to internal validation. You start to remember that your feelings are valid without the need for their acknowledgement, that your decisions matter without their approval, and that your existence does not depend on being managed or controlled by someone else. Reclaiming power also involves recognizing the subtle ways in which your life had been shaped by the narcissist. Perhaps you deferred to them in social settings, avoided expressing your true feelings, or overcompensated in order to prevent conflict. When contact stops, these patterns become visible. and you gain the opportunity to correct them. This stage is empowering because it is grounded in choice. Unlike the narcissist, whose panic is reactive and uncontrolled, your reclaiming of power is deliberate. Each boundary you enforce, each moment you resist the urge to explain or justify yourself, reinforces the reality that your life is yours to manage. The narcissist, by contrast, experiences the loss of access to your energy as disorienting and threatening. Their sense of importance diminishes because the influence they relied on to maintain their self-image is gone. They may attempt to reassert control through messages, social media posts, or other indirect tactics, but without your engagement, these attempts lose potency. Your power grows in proportion to the consistency with which you maintain boundaries. Silence becomes your ally because it allows you to operate from a place of intentionality rather than reaction. Over time, you notice that your emotional responses are no longer dictated by fear, guilt, or the need to manage someone else's perceptions. Instead, you feel a growing sense of autonomy, clarity, and self-respect. This reclamation of power also manifests in practical ways. Decisions that once felt overwhelming or compromised by the narcissist influence become clear and self-directed. You rediscover interests, goals, and values that may have been buried under the weight of their needs. Every choice, every step forward is a reinforcement of your independence. Importantly, reclaiming power does not require engagement with the narcissist. It is an internal process, one that grows stronger the more you resist the temptation to explain, justify, or respond. The energy you once spent managing them is now available for your healing, growth, and self-realization. Psychologically, this is significant because it shifts the dynamic from one of external dependency to internal mastery. You begin to understand that your worth is inherent, not contingent on someone else's perception or attention. As you reclaim power, you also gain insight into the true nature of the narcissist's reliance on control. You see that their attempts to dominate or manipulate were not reflections of your shortcomings, but of their unmet needs and internal instability. This realization deepens your confidence and see the wisdom of maintaining distance. Ultimately, reclaiming your power is not about defeating the narcissist. It is about restoring yourself. It is about standing in your own life, feeling your own feelings, and trusting your own judgment. The moment you embrace this freedom, you experience a profound shift. The weight of manipulation lifts, the clarity of your self-worth emerges, and the energy that once sustained someone else is redirected to nourish your own growth. In this space, silence transforms from a tool of avoidance into a tool of empowerment. Each day without contact becomes a declaration that your life belongs to you, that your energy is sacred, and that you will no longer participate in a dynamic that undermines your autonomy. This is the essence of reclaiming power, quiet, steady, and transformative, reshaping not only your relationship with the narcissist, but also your relationship with yourself. I can now expand key point 4 in the same detailed 750 words style, keeping this speech flowing naturally and psychologically impactful. Do you want me to continue with that? Here's the expanded version of key point 4, kinds around 750 words, in the same style and without a subheading. When both you and the narcissist stop contacting each other, one of the most profound consequences is that the narcissist's illusion of control begins to crumble. Narcissists thrive on the belief that they can predict, influence, and manipulate the people around them. Their sense of identity and power is deeply entwined with the idea that others' thoughts, feelings, and actions revolve around them. But when you step away and maintain no contact, that carefully constructed illusion begins to shatter. Suddenly, they are confronted with a reality where their influence is no longer guaranteed, and the strategies they relied on, manipulation, coercion, guilt tripping, or love bombing, no longer elicit the predictable responses they expect. This loss is destabilizing because the narcissist rarely experiences situations where they do not hold some form of control. Their self-concept is built on the assumption that they are indispensable, that their needs and desires must dominate, and that others will respond in ways that validate their importance. When contact stops, the very foundation of that belief is challenged. They are forced to face the uncomfortable truth that they cannot dictate your actions or emotions, and that your autonomy exists independently of their influence. This can lead to cognitive dissonance, a mental conflict between their expectations and reality. The narcissist struggles to reconcile the idea that someone they once believed they could control has now disengaged completely. They may attempt to regain a sense of power by replaying past interactions, analyzing every detail, or creating hypothetical strategies to pull you back. Yet no matter how much they plan or strategize, the lack of response from you reveals a limit to their control, a boundary they cannot cross. Meanwhile, for you, this stage is profoundly liberating. You witness the shift in dynamics without being pulled back into the cycle of manipulation. Your awareness of the narcissist's loss of control reinforces your own autonomy and validates the choices you have made. What was once a source of tension and obligation now becomes a mirror reflecting your growth and resilience. This is also a moment of clarity. You begin to see the relationship in its true light. The behaviors that once seemed confusing, overwhelming, or even charming are revealed for what they were: strategies designed to maintain influence and undermine your self-direction. Understanding this allows you to fully internalize the reality of your separation and strengthens your ability to maintain boundaries. The crumbling of their illusion also exposes a key truth about narcissistic relationships. They are fundamentally one-sided. While you may have invested emotionally, mentally, and sometimes physically, the narcissist's investment is almost always conditional and transactional. By disengaging, you illuminate this imbalance, giving yourself the opportunity to break free from patterns that previously left you drained and controlled. Over time, the narcissist may react with frustration, anger, or even attempts at reconciliation, but these actions are rarely grounded in genuine understanding or change. They are simply efforts to restore their sense of dominance, which you now resist by maintaining distance. This stage highlights the contrast between reactive control and intentional freedom. While the narcissist struggles to regain power, you cultivate clarity, stability, and inner authority. Your life becomes guided not by the need to manage their reactions, but by the priorities, values, and goals you choose for yourself. The dissolution of their control also has an emotional dimension. As the narcissist realizes that they cannot manipulate you as before, they may experience feelings of insecurity, inadequacy, and even shame, though these are often masked or denied. In contrast, you experience the emotional benefits of liberation, a growing sense of self-worth, confidence, and autonomy. This is the essence of what it means to reclaim space from a narcissist, not through confrontation, argument, or revenge, but through the quiet and steadfast act of disengagement. Ultimately, the crumbling of control is a revelation of reality for both parties. For the narcissist, it is a painful confrontation with limits. For you, it is an empowering confirmation that autonomy, clarity, and self respect are not only possible, but yours to claim. In this space, you are no longer reacting to manipulation or fear. You are standing in your own life, free to make choices that reflect your true self rather than the desires or expectations of someone else. By allowing the illusion of control to dissolve, you witness a powerful transformation. The narcissist is destabilized, while you are strengthened, confident, and grounded in the knowledge that your life belongs to you. I can now continue with key point 5 expanded to 750 words in the same tone and style, keeping the psychological insights flowing naturally. Do you want me to proceed with that?